My name is Linda Brown, and I'm 30 years old. Last Sunday, I told my family our restaurant Marino's was failing, and I needed $15,000 for payroll. My hands shook as I held the fake eviction notice. My sister Jennifer laughed while scrolling through her Santorini vacation photos. My mother sighed and told me to stop being dramatic. They had no idea I was testing them. 3 weeks ago, I inherited a $12 million restaurant empire from chef Pietro Russo. Let me take you back. I'd worked at Marino's for 10 years, creating the recipes that made us famous, while Jennifer collected $75,000 as marketing director. Then I got the email. Chef Pietro Russo had passed away. I was named primary beneficiary. Chef Russo, the man who'd discovered me 8 years ago at an underground culinary competition, who'd become my secret mentor. Under the name Chef L. Rousseau, I'd won 3 James Beard Awards. My family never knew. Attorney Sarah Chen slid documents across her desk. $12.3 million, she said, then handed me his letter. Linda, you are ready. Don't let anyone dim your light. Show them what you're made of. I cried, not because of the money, because someone had finally seen me. That night, I decided to test my family before revealing anything. With Sarah's help, I created the crisis. Fake bills, fake eviction notice. I became the struggling Linda they'd always seen. And then, I waited for Sunday dinner. The story of how I became invisible started long before that Sunday dinner. It started when I was 8 years old. I won the regional junior chef competition with my grandmother Sophia's recipe for osso buco. I remember every detail of that day. The heat of the competition kitchen. The judges tasting my dish, their eyes widening. The head judge, a chef from a Michelin-starred restaurant in Providence, calling my name for first place. I was so proud. I ran home with the trophy, a silly plastic gold thing that felt like pure magic in my small hands. I burst through the door. Mom, Mom, I won! I won first place. There were 30 kids, and I won. My mother was in the living room with Jennifer, who was wearing her dance recital costume. My mother looked at the trophy, then at me, and said, "Don't get a big head, Linda. It's just food. Lots of people can cook." Then she turned back to helping Jennifer adjust her tutu. Now this takes real talent. Grace. Artistry. Jennifer had gotten a participation ribbon, not even a placement, just for showing up to a dance recital where every child got the same ribbon. My mother threw her a party the next weekend with a custom cake that said, "Our little star," and pink balloons, and invited 20 people. She hired a photographer. She posted pictures everywhere. My trophy went on a shelf in my bedroom where no one saw it. No one came to my competition. No one asked to taste what I'd made. When I tried to tell my grandmother about it on the phone, my mother took the phone away. "Don't brag, Linda. It's unbecoming." But when Jennifer got a B+ on a spelling test, my mother called everyone in the family to celebrate. When I was 16, I got a full scholarship to the Culinary Institute of America. It was my dream, my ticket out, my chance to become something. The letter came on a Tuesday. I remember running home from school, my backpack bouncing against my back, the acceptance letter clutched in my sweaty hand. I burst into the kitchen where my mother was doing the books for Marino's. "Mom, Mom, I got in. Full scholarship. The Culinary Institute. It's one of the best schools in the world. They're only taking 40 students and they chose me." My hands were shaking as I held out the letter. My mother didn't even look up from her calculator. "You're not going, Linda. Family needs you in the restaurant. That's final." I stood there frozen. "But Mom, this is my dream. This is everything I've worked for. It's a full scholarship. It won't cost you anything. Please." She finally looked at me. Her eyes were cold and tired. "Dreams don't pay bills, Linda. You'll work here. Your grandmother is getting older. I need help. Jennifer needs to focus on her education. She has potential." Real potential. You're already good at cooking. Why do you need school for something you already know? But I want to be great, I whispered. I want to learn classical technique. I want to study with master chefs. This is the best school in the country. She turned back to her books. The conversation is over. You're needed here. Be grateful you have a family business to work in. Most kids don't have that security. Now stop being selfish and think about what's best for the family. I stood there with my acceptance letter. I watched my future dissolve. I went to my room and cried so hard I threw up. When my grandmother called that night, I told her what happened. There was a long silence on the phone. Then she said, "Tesoro, keep that letter. Frame it. Look at it every day. Your time will come. I promise you. Your time will come." Jennifer went to State University that fall. She partied for 6 years, changed her major 4 times, failed multiple classes, and never graduated. My mother paid $70,000 for that education, plus rent, plus a car, plus spending money. Meanwhile, I worked 70-hour weeks at Marino's, learning nothing new, watching my dreams slip away. My scholarship would have cost them nothing, but I was needed. I was useful. And useful people don't get dreams. When I was 22, I won my first James Beard Award under my pseudonym L. Rousseau. It was one of the proudest moments of my life. The ceremony was in New York on a Saturday night. I told my family I was going to a culinary seminar. I spent my entire savings on a train ticket and a hotel room. I got ready in that tiny hotel room in Midtown, wearing a simple black dress I'd saved for months to buy. My hands shook as I did my makeup. I looked at myself in the mirror and whispered, "You deserve this. You earned this." The ceremony was at Lincoln Center. I sat in the audience surrounded by the greatest chefs in America. People whose cookbooks I'd studied. People whose restaurants I'd dreamed of working in. When they called the category Rising Star Chef of the Year, my heart stopped. And the award goes to Chef L. Rousseau for her innovative approach to regional Italian cuisine and her fearless fusion of traditional and modern techniques. I walked up on that stage in front of 800 people. The spotlight was so bright I couldn't see the audience. I accepted the heavy medal. I gave a short speech thanking my grandmother, thanking Chef Rousseau, who was in the audience beaming with pride. I didn't thank my family. How could I? They didn't know I was there. They didn't know El Rousseau existed. I drove home at 3 in the morning, still wearing my gown, the medal heavy in my purse. I kept touching it at red lights, making sure it was real. When I pulled into our driveway at home, all the lights were on. I thought maybe they'd waited up. Maybe somehow they'd seen the ceremony online. Maybe someone had told them. I walked in carrying my heels, the medal hidden in my purse. The living room was full of people, balloons, champagne, a banner that said, "Congratulations, Jennifer." It was Jennifer's engagement party. They'd planned it for that exact night. They knew I'd told them I'd be gone for a seminar. They'd planned a major family celebration for the one night I wasn't available. My mother saw me in my fancy dress and frowned. "Oh, good. You're back from your little seminar. Jennifer needs help in the kitchen. We ran out of ice and the caterer is useless. Can you fix the bruschetta? It doesn't taste right." I stood there in my evening gown, my James Beard medal hidden in my purse, and I went to the kitchen. I fixed their bruschetta. I refilled ice buckets. I served appetizers to guests who didn't look at me, and I cried silently while I worked, my tears falling into the sink while I washed dishes. The medal stayed hidden in my purse for 3 days. Finally, I took it to my grandmother's house. She opened the door, took one look at my face, and pulled me inside. I showed her the medal. She held it in her wrinkled hands and cried. "Tesoro," she whispered. "My beautiful, talented girl. They will regret this, I promise you. One day they will see what they missed, and they will regret it for the rest of their lives." I won 2 more James Beard Awards over the next 6 years. My family never knew. They never asked why I went to so many seminars. They never wondered why culinary magazines sometimes called the restaurant asking for El Rousseau. I always said it was a wrong number. That was the pattern. Every single achievement I had, they diminished or ignored. Every single thing Jennifer did, they celebrated. Jennifer posted a photo of avocado toast. My mother shared it 50 times. Look at my daughter's creative eye. I created a dish that got written up in Bon Appetit magazine under the Marino's name. My mother's response: Jennifer's really building our brand. The worst part? Jennifer started taking credit for my work. In interviews, she'd say, I developed our signature dishes by really understanding our customer base. She'd describe my recipes, my techniques, my creative process as if it were hers. And my mother would beam with pride. I worked 80-hour weeks. I paid myself minimum wage so the restaurant could stay profitable. I covered costs from my own pocket when we were short. I paid the property taxes of $127,000 over 5 years from my savings. Meanwhile, Jennifer showed up maybe 10 hours a week, posted some photos, and collected $75,000 a year. My mother would say, Jennifer has the personality. You just cook. As if cooking wasn't everything. As if the food wasn't the only reason Marino's existed. The person who saw through all of it was my grandmother, Sophia. She died 5 years ago, and I still miss her every single day. She was the one who taught me to cook. Real talent can't be faked, Tesoro, she would whisper while we worked together in her kitchen. They don't see you now, but the world will. When she died, she left me her handwritten recipe collection. Every recipe had notes. Taught to Linda, March 2008. Perfected with Linda, June 2010. Each page was documentation of our time together, of her belief in me. The day after her funeral, my mother took the book. This belongs to the family, she said. It'll be Jennifer's someday. I made copies. I documented everything. I didn't know why at the time. I just knew I needed proof that I existed. Meeting Chef Pietro Russo changed my life. I was 22, angry and invisible, and desperate to be seen by someone, anyone. I heard about an underground culinary competition in Cambridge through a line cook at a restaurant where I'd picked up a weekend shift. No real names, no credentials, no resumes. Just food, just skill, just soul on a plate. I entered as El Rousseau, a name I'd made up combining the L from Linda and Rousseau as a French twist that honored my Italian grandmother while hiding my identity. I chose to make butternut squash agnolotti with brown butter, crispy sage, and toasted hazelnuts. It was my grandmother's recipe at its heart, but elevated with techniques I'd taught myself from books and late-night YouTube videos. The competition kitchen was in the basement of a restaurant that had closed down. Dim lighting, cement floors, 20 stations. The other competitors were serious, focused, many of them clearly professional chefs. I was terrified. My hands shook as I started my mise en place, but once I started cooking, everything else disappeared. It was just me and the food and my grandmother's voice in my head. Tesoro, food is love made visible. When you cook for someone, you give them a piece of your soul. Don't be afraid. Your soul is beautiful. When time was called, I plated my dish with trembling hands. The agnolotti were perfect little pillows. The brown butter was nutty and rich. The sage was crispy. The hazelnuts added texture. I drizzled it with aged balsamic. It looked simple but elegant, rustic but refined. The judges came around. Most barely looked at the plates. But then, Chef Pietro Russo stopped at my station. I recognized him immediately. He was a legend. 3 Michelin stars. James Beard, Lifetime Achievement Award. Mentor to dozens of acclaimed chefs. He was in his 60s, with silver hair and kind eyes that had seen everything. He picked up the fork. He cut into an agnolotti. The filling was exposed, golden squash with ricotta and nutmeg. He took a bite. He closed his eyes. The whole room seemed to stop. He chewed slowly, thoughtfully. When he opened his eyes, they were wet. "Who made this?" he asked quietly. I raised my hand, my voice barely a whisper. "I did." He looked at me, really looked at me. Not past me, not through me. At me. "What's your name?" "L. Rousseau," I said. "Your real name." I hesitated. "Linda. Linda Brown." He picked up a second bite, tasted it again. Then he set down his fork and leaned forward. "This is not talent, Linda. This is not skill. This is soul on a plate. This is love. This is memory. This is grief and joy and longing all together. Who taught you to cook like this?" "My grandmother," I whispered. "Before she got sick." He nodded slowly. "Where do you work?" "My family's restaurant. Marino's in the North End." He pulled out a business card and wrote a number on the back. "This is my private number. If you want to be great, truly great, not just good but extraordinary, meet me tomorrow at this address. 6 in the morning. No one can know. We'll work when the world is asleep. Because, Linda, you have something rare. You have something precious. And it's being wasted." I took the card with shaking hands. "Why would you help me?" He smiled sadly. "Because 30 years ago, someone saw me when I was invisible. And they changed my life. Now I see you. Don't make me regret it." That night, I barely slept. The next morning, I drove to the address he'd given me. It was his test kitchen, a private space attached to his flagship restaurant. For the next 8 years, I lived 2 lives. By day, I was invisible Linda, the kitchen workhorse at Marino's, working 80-hour weeks for minimum wage while my sister took credit for my food. By night, I was L. Rousseau, Chef Rousseau's protégé, learning classical French technique, Italian soul, modern innovation. He taught me how to build a business, how to negotiate with suppliers, how to read a profit and loss statement, how to protect my work legally, how to document everything. "You're going to be famous one day, Linda," he would say, "and when that day comes, you need to be ready. Your family doesn't see you now, but one day, the world will. And you need to have protected yourself, your talent, your recipes, your name. Document everything. Copyright everything. Because people will try to take credit for your work. They already are." He helped me enter competitions under my pseudonym. He introduced me to food writers and critics who tasted my food and wrote glowing reviews. He made sure every recipe I created was documented, copyrighted, protected. When I won my first James Beard Award, he was there in the audience, tears streaming down his face. When he died 6 months ago, I was devastated. His assistant called me at 2 in the morning. I drove to the hospital, but he was already gone. I sat by his bed and held his cold hand and thanked him for seeing me, for believing in me, for making me believe in myself. 3 days later, I got the call from his attorney. Chef Rousseau had left me everything. His restaurant in New York worth $4 million, properties in Boston and San Francisco worth another $3 million, his investment portfolio, his cookbook royalties, his name, his legacy. The total estate was $12.3 million. But more than the money, he left me a letter. I've read it 1,000 times. I have it memorized. "Linda, you are ready. The world will know your name now. Don't let anyone dim your light ever again. You have been invisible for too long. Show them what they missed. Show them what you're made of. Build something beautiful. Help others the way I helped you. And Linda, don't ever, ever let your family make you small again. You are extraordinary. Act like it." With love and pride, Pietro, that letter changed everything. Not because of what it gave me, but because of what it showed me. I had value. I had worth. And I didn't need my family to validate that. The world already had. That's what the test was really about. Not the money. I had plenty of money. It was about proof. About showing them, showing myself, who they really were when I needed them most. Sunday dinner at Marino's was our sacred family tradition. We'd close early and my mother would make her special menu. Jennifer and her husband Derek would show up, always late, always loud. This Sunday, I'd prepared everything perfectly, including my performance. After we ate, I stood up. My hands were actually shaking, not from fear, but from rage I was barely controlling. I have something I need to tell you all. I need help. The restaurant is in trouble. Jennifer looked up from her phone, annoyed at the interruption. My mother frowned. Derek, Jennifer's husband, leaned back in his chair like he was about to be entertained. I slid the fake documents across the table. We're 3 months behind on the building lease. The vendors are threatening to stop deliveries. If I don't come up with $15,000 by Friday, we're going to have to close. I let my voice crack. I'm trying so hard, but I can't do this alone anymore. The silence lasted maybe 3 seconds. Then Jennifer actually laughed. Oh my God, Linda. Really? Here we go again with the drama. She looked at Derek and rolled her eyes. She's always doing this. Always some crisis. Always some emergency. Derek nodded. Maybe it's time to think about cutting losses. The restaurant business is tough. Not everyone's cut out for it. He said it like I was the problem. Like I hadn't kept Marino's running for 10 years. I turned to my mother. Mom, please. I just need $15,000. I'll pay it back. Every penny. I promise. I work so hard here. I just need help this one time. My mother sighed. She didn't even look at me. She was reorganizing the salt and pepper shakers, not meeting my eyes. Linda, I don't have that kind of money just lying around. Do you know what property taxes cost? What insurance costs? I'm on a fixed income. Fixed income. She'd just spent $8,000 on a cruise to Alaska with her friends. Jennifer was posting photos from Santorini yesterday, but I needed $15,000 to save our family business, and she had a fixed income. Mom, I whispered. Please, I'm drowning here. She finally looked at me, and her expression was pure annoyance. Then, maybe you need to learn to swim better. Jennifer is about to have a baby. She touched Jennifer's arm. I have to think about my grandchild's future. Jennifer beamed, her hand on her flat stomach. The pregnancy announcement had been 3 weeks ago, and it had become her excuse for everything. I looked at Derek, who wouldn't meet my eyes. I looked at Jennifer, who was already back on her phone. I looked at my mother, who had turned away from me. The test was complete. But I wasn't done. Later that night, I went to the kitchen to start cleaning up. My mother followed me. I could feel her presence before she spoke, that particular energy she had when she was about to deliver a lecture. Linda, we need to talk. She closed the kitchen door behind her. About what? I asked, scrubbing a pan I'd already cleaned 3 times. My hands needed something to do. About expectations. About reality. She poured herself a glass of wine from the bottle on the counter. She took a long sip, then settled against the counter like she was about to deliver a lesson to a particularly slow child. I turned around, soap suds dripping from my hands. What do you mean? I mean, she said slowly, like she was explaining something obvious. Jennifer is inheriting the restaurant, Linda. It's already in my will. You'll get a small percentage, maybe 10%, but Marino's is going to be hers. She gestured with her wine glass. She has a family now. She has a child coming. She needs security. She needs a future. My hands gripped the edge of the sink. The words hit me like physical blows. I've worked here for 10 years, I said quietly, my voice barely controlled. I've given everything to this place. Everything. Every recipe, every long night, every sacrifice. I've bled for this restaurant. And that's wonderful, my mother said, her voice taking on that patient, condescending tone. Really, it is. You're a very hard worker. But Jennifer has the vision, Linda. She has the business sense. You're an excellent cook. A really excellent cook. But running a restaurant takes more than just cooking. It takes personality, marketing, brand development, social media presence. Jennifer has those skills. You don't. I felt something crack inside me. Jennifer shows up 10 hours a week. I work 80 hours, sometimes 90. I create every dish, every recipe. I manage every vendor relationship. I train every new hire. I handle every crisis. I'm here when the walk-in breaks down at midnight. I'm here when the dishwasher doesn't show up. I'm here every single day. And she? She posts photos on Instagram. My mother's face hardened. That's brand building, Linda. That's worth more than you understand. Do you know how many people come here because they saw Jennifer's posts? Because they want to eat at the restaurant that the beautiful food blogger owns? She has 200,000 followers. That's 200,000 potential customers. What do you have? Dirty aprons and complaints about being tired. The cruelty of it took my breath away. I'm the head chef, I said. I'm the one who makes the food they come to eat. Jennifer doesn't even know how to make a bechamel sauce. She thinks al dente means soft. She once asked me if you could substitute Greek yogurt for mascarpone in tiramisu. My mother waved her hand dismissively. Details, technical details. Anyone can learn that stuff from a book. But charisma? Personality? That's something you're born with. Jennifer has it. And frankly, Linda, this attitude is exactly why you're in this position. You don't understand the big picture. You think everything is about the food, but it's not. It's about the experience, the brand, the story. Jennifer is the story. You're just the kitchen. Just the kitchen. 30 years of my life reduced to just the kitchen. I took a deep breath, trying to control the rage that was building in my chest. So you won't help me? With the $15,000? That's your final answer. She looked at me like I was being deliberately obtuse. I don't have $15,000 to throw away on what might be poor management, Linda. Maybe you're not charging enough. Maybe your food costs are too high. Maybe you're not controlling portions properly. I don't know. But I'm not going to enable poor business practices. She moved closer, her voice dropping. Maybe this is a sign. Maybe it's time you found something else to do with your life. Found a husband who can support you. Jennifer found Derek. He has a good job. He provides for her. Maybe you should focus on that instead of trying to be some kind of restaurant mogul. Stop trying to be something you're not. And what am I? I asked quietly. She looked at me, and in her eyes, I saw the truth. I saw what she'd always seen. You're a good cook, Linda, a good worker, reliable, steady, but you're not special. You're not Jennifer. And that's okay. Not everyone can be the star. Someone has to be the support staff. That's you. And there's no shame in accepting your role. I stood there in that kitchen, water dripping from my hands onto the floor. I looked at my mother, at the woman who had given birth to me but had never really seen me. I realized in that moment that she never would. I could win 100 James Beard Awards and she would never see me as anything more than the hired help, her own daughter, and I was just the kitchen. I left the restaurant and drove. I didn't know where I was going. I just drove through Boston, my vision blurred with tears, my hands gripping the steering wheel so hard they ached. I drove past my apartment. I couldn't go home. I couldn't be alone with these feelings. I found myself on the highway, and then I was pulling up outside Rosa's building. Rosa Martinez had been our sous chef at Marino's for 20 years. She'd been my grandmother's best friend for 50 years before that. She was 65 years old now, living on $1,200 a month Social Security in a tiny rent-controlled apartment in Dorchester. The building was old, with cracked steps and peeling paint, but Rosa kept her little corner of it immaculate. I knocked on her door at 10 o'clock at night. I knew it was late. I knew I shouldn't bother her, but I had nowhere else to go. No one else who would understand. She opened the door in her nightgown and robe, her gray hair in rollers. She took one look at my face, my puffy eyes, my trembling hands, and she didn't say a word. She just opened her arms. I fell into them and started crying all over again. "Come in, mija. Come in right now." She pulled me inside and closed the door. Her apartment smelled like the lemon cookies she'd been baking. The TV was on low, playing a telenovela. Everything was neat and clean and warm. It felt more like home than my family's house ever had. "Sit," she commanded, pointing to her worn floral couch. "I'm making you tea, and you're going to tell me everything." I sat on that couch, surrounded by photos of Rosa's family, her late husband, her children who lived in California and rarely visited, photos of my grandmother, young and smiling, photos of me as a child, learning to cook in Marino's kitchen. I realized Rosa had more photos of me than my own mother did. She brought me chamomile tea in a chipped mug that said "World's Best Grandma." She sat next to me, close enough that our knees touched. "Now, tell me." I told her everything. Not about the money yet, I couldn't tell anyone that, but about the test, about standing in front of my family and asking for help, about Jamal laughing, about Jennifer's cruel suggestions, about Derek's dismissiveness, about my mother's coldness, her words in the kitchen, about feeling like I was drowning and not one person who I'd bled for would throw me a rope. Rosa listened. She didn't interrupt. She didn't make shocked sounds or tell me I must be mistaken. She just listened, her hand holding mine, her thumb rubbing gentle circles on my wrist. Her dark eyes were sad, but not surprised. When I finished, my voice was raw. I felt hollow. She sat there for a moment in silence. Then she stood up without a word. I watched her walk down the short hallway to her bedroom. I heard a drawer squeak open, that familiar sound of old wood. I didn't know what she was doing. For a terrible moment, I thought maybe I'd upset her. Maybe even Rosa thought I was being dramatic. Foolish. Weak. She came back holding an envelope. It was white, crumpled soft from being handled many times. On the front, in her careful handwriting, were the words, "Rent money." My heart stopped. "Rosa, no." I stood up fast, backing away. "No, absolutely not. What are you doing?" She walked toward me, holding out that envelope. "Sit down, Misha. Rosa, that's your rent money. You need that." "I can't. I won't." She kept walking until she was standing right in front of me. She took my hand and pressed the envelope into my palm. Her hand was warm and dry and strong. "It's $800, she said firmly. "It's all I have until my next check comes in 3 weeks. But you take it. You take it right now." "No," I said, trying to push it back to her, tears streaming down my face. "You'll be late on rent. You'll get evicted." "I can't do that to you." "Rosa, please." She grabbed my face in both her hands, forcing me to look at her. "Listen to me, Linda Maria Brown. Listen carefully. Money can be made again. You understand me? A dollar is just a dollar. It's paper. It's numbers. It comes and goes. But you are priceless. You are irreplaceable. Your soul, your talent, your heart, these things have value that no money can measure." "But your rent," I whispered. "I'll talk to my landlord," she said. "I've been here 30 years. Never late once. He'll give me an extension. Or I'll pick up some shifts somewhere. Or I'll sell some things. I don't know. but I'll figure it out. That's what adults do. We figure it out. She squeezed my face gently. Your abuela, your grandmother Sophia, she would never let you sleep on the street. Not while there was breath in her body, and not while there's breath in mine. I'm not going to sleep on the street, I said, but my voice broke. I have the money. I have so much money. But I couldn't say that. Not yet. Rosa pulled me into her arms again. She smelled like lemon and soap and safety. Family isn't who shares your blood, mija, she whispered fiercely. Family is who shares your fight. Family is the hand that pulls you up, not the one that pushes you down. Your mother? Your sister? They pushed you down today. They pushed you down your whole life. But me? She pulled back to look at me. I'm pulling you up. You hear me? I see you. I've always seen you. Just like your abuela did. Why? I asked, my voice small like a child's. Why are you always so nice to me? They hate me. My own family hates me. What's wrong with me? Her face crumpled with grief. Oh, Tesoro, nothing is wrong with you. Nothing. You listen to me. They don't hate you. Hate requires caring. They just don't see you. They're blind. Your mother has been chasing after Jennifer her whole life, trying to make her into something she's not. And in all that chasing, she couldn't see the treasure she already had right in front of her. She poked my chest with her finger, right over my heart. You were always the diamond, baby girl. Solid, clear, strong all the way through. They're fools who only like cheap glitter, things that shine on the outside but have nothing on the inside. You're not glitter, mija. You're the diamond. Don't you ever forget that. I broke down completely. I sobbed in Rosa's arms, the kind of deep, racking sobs that come from a place you keep locked away. I cried for my mother who saw me as a burden. I cried for my sister who saw me as a joke. I cried for 30 years of trying so hard and never being enough. Rosa held me through all of it, rocking me gently, whispering in Spanish and English, telling me I was loved, I was seen, I was worthy. When I got back to my car, I sat in the dark for a long time. Rosa's $800 was in my pocket. My family's rejection was in my heart, and in my bank account, $12.3 million was waiting. I pulled out my phone. I called attorney Sarah Chen. It's Linda. I'm ready. Execute phase 2. 3 days later, my mother called. Her voice was sharp, urgent. Linda, we need to have a family meeting. Tomorrow at 10. Derek found a lawyer who can help us with the restaurant situation. What situation? I asked, playing dumb. The restaurant is closing, isn't it? Didn't you say you couldn't help? She made an exasperated sound. Just be there, Linda. We found a solution. Wear something presentable. This is a professional meeting. The address she gave me was downtown, near the financial district. When I pulled up, I smiled. It wasn't a restaurant consultant's office or a real estate developer. It was attorney Sarah Chen's building. My attorney's building. My mother had no idea she'd just walked into my trap. I dressed carefully that morning. Not in my usual kitchen clothes, but in a designer suit I'd bought 2 days ago. Charcoal gray, perfectly tailored, with heels that cost more than my mother's monthly car payment. I pulled my hair back in a severe bun. I looked like exactly what I was, a successful businesswoman about to take back her life. When I walked into the conference room, they were already there. My mother, Jennifer, and Derek, sitting on one side of the massive mahogany table. They looked small and cheap against the backdrop of floor-to-ceiling windows showing the Boston skyline. Jennifer was in a tight leopard print dress. Derek wore a shiny suit that was too small. My mother was in her church outfit, clutching her purse. They all stared at me when I walked in. My mother's eyes went wide. Where did you get that outfit? Jennifer looked me up and down, her expression sour. Linda, this is a business meeting. You didn't need to play dress up. I sat down across from them. I didn't smile. I didn't explain. I just waited. Attorney Sarah Chen walked in moments later, flanked by two associates. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. We're here today to discuss the ownership and future of Marino's restaurant. My mother jumped in immediately. Yes, exactly. My daughters and I own the restaurant. It's a family business. We need to discuss selling to a developer who's interested. We just need Linda's signature on a few papers. Sarah nodded slowly. I see. And Linda, you've been told you'll receive $25,000 for your share? I hadn't been told that officially, but I wasn't surprised. That's what they mentioned, I said softly. Jennifer leaned forward. Look, we're trying to help her. The restaurant is failing under her management. This way, we all get something and move on. Linda can find a job somewhere else. Somewhere that suits her abilities better. Sarah folded her hands on the table. That's very interesting. Before we proceed, I need to clarify something about Marino's ownership. She slid a document across the table. This is the deed to the property where Marino's restaurant operates. My mother frowned, pulling out her reading glasses. I inherited that building from my mother-in-law. It's mine. Sarah shook her head gently. Actually, Mrs. Brown, your mother-in-law left you her house, her car, and her personal effects. But the restaurant building was placed in a trust, the Brown Family Trust, established in 2018. She pointed to a name on the document. The trustee is Linda Brown. The silence was sudden and total. What? My mother whispered. Linda has been the legal owner of the Marino's building for 5 years, Sarah continued. She pays the property taxes. She holds the business license. She owns the trademark. Legally, Marino's restaurant belongs to Linda. That's impossible, my mother shouted. I would have known. I would have been told. Your mother-in-law's attorney sent you 3 certified letters explaining the trust, Sarah said calmly. You refused to sign for them. Eventually, they proceeded without your signature, as was their legal right. Jennifer was shaking her head. Okay, fine, so she has the building. But the recipes are family recipes. The brand is ours. Our grandmother's food. Our reputation. I finally spoke. I pulled my grandmother's recipe book from my bag and placed it on the table. Every recipe in here has a date and a note. Taught to Linda. Perfected with Linda. My grandmother documented everything. Sarah continued. Every signature dish at Marino's was created by Linda. She holds the intellectual property rights. Jennifer, you've been claiming credit for Linda's copyrighted work in multiple media interviews. That's fraud. Derek's face went red. Where would she even get this kind of legal representation? This is insane. I stood up slowly. I looked at each of them. My mother, whose mouth was opening and closing. Jennifer, whose face had gone pale. Derek, who looked like he might be sick. It's time you knew who I really am. I pulled out my phone. I brought up the article I'd saved. Chef L. Rousseau wins 3rd James Beard Award. Wins 3rd. I slid the phone across the table. Jennifer picked it up, squinting at the screen. Who the hell is Chef Rousseau? I am, I said. My professional name is L. Rousseau. For 8 years, I've been one of the most acclaimed chefs in America. While I was working at Marino's, I was also winning awards, building a reputation, creating a career. A career you knew nothing about because you never asked. You never cared. I pulled out more articles. Chef Rousseau to open 5th restaurant in Manhattan. L. Rousseau, named one of Forbes' 30 under 30. L. Rousseau mentored by legendary chef Pietro Russo. My mother's hands were shaking. Pietro Russo? The Pietro Russo? He died 6 months ago, I said. He was my mentor. My friend. The person who actually saw my talent when my own family refused to. I slid the final document across the table. This is his will. He left me everything. His restaurant empire, his properties, his investment portfolio. $12.3 million. The room was completely silent except for the sound of my mother's quick, shallow breathing. Jennifer dropped my phone. It clattered on the table. Derek just stared. "That $15,000 I asked for?" I said, my voice cold and clear. "I was testing you. I wanted to see if you'd help me when I needed it. I wanted to see if you'd finally see me." Rosa, who lives on $1,200 a month Social Security, tried to give me her rent money. You, with your paid-off houses and your vacations and your new cars? You laughed at me? "Mom, I didn't know," my mother whispered. Her voice sounded old, broken. "Exactly," I said. "You didn't know. You didn't care to know. For 30 years you saw what you wanted to see. The workhorse, the cook, the invisible daughter. You bet everything on the wrong child. And the daughter you threw away? She was holding all the cards. Every single one." Jennifer found her voice. It came out as a shriek. "You lied to us. You manipulated us." "What kind of person does that?" I leaned forward. "The kind of person who spent 30 years begging to be seen. The kind of person who gave everything and got nothing. The kind of person who finally decided to find out the truth about her family. And you know what? I got my answer." The immediate aftermath was swift and brutal. I closed Marino's restaurant the day after that meeting. It was mine to close, after all. I owned the building, the business, the recipes, the name, everything. I sent formal termination letters to all employees with generous severance packages. Everyone except Jennifer, who had never actually been an employee, just a parasite collecting $75,000 a year for Instagram posts. My mother called me 17 times that first day. I didn't answer. On the 18th call, I finally picked up. Her voice was frantic, desperate. "Linda, please, we need to talk about this. You can't just close the restaurant. This is our legacy. This is our family." "No," I said calmly. "This is my legacy. My work. My recipes. My life. You just took credit for it. There's a difference. I'm opening my own restaurants. Under my real name. Chef L. Rousseau. The world already knows who I am. Now you do too." "But what are we supposed to do?" she cried. "Jennifer doesn't have a job." Derek's consulting business was dependent on the restaurant connection. "We need Marinos." "You should have thought of that before you tried to steal my inheritance," I said. "You should have thought of that before you laughed when I asked for help. You made your choice. Now live with it." Jennifer sent text after text, swinging wildly between rage and desperate apologies. First, "You're a selfish bitch who destroyed our family." Then, an hour later, "Please, Linda, I'm pregnant. I need this income. I'm sorry for everything." Then, "You always had to be the center of attention, didn't you?" Then, "Can we please just talk? I'll do anything." I blocked her number after the 15th message. Derek tried to show up at my apartment 3 times. My building's security turned him away each time. The third time, he tried to force his way past the doorman. The police were called. I filed a restraining order. It was granted immediately once the judge saw the evidence of fraud and harassment. The Boston culinary community learned the truth within 48 hours. I didn't have to say anything. The story spread itself like wildfire through the tight-knit network of chefs, food writers, and restaurant owners. Linda Brown is Chef L. Rousseau. She's been running Marino's while winning James Beard Awards under a pseudonym. Her family took credit for her work for years. The family tried to defraud her out of her inheritance. Chef Pietro Russo left her his entire estate. The whispers became conversations in restaurant kitchens. The conversations became articles in food magazines and blogs. Boston Magazine ran a feature, "The Secret Life of Chef L. Rousseau: How Linda Brown Became Boston's Most Acclaimed Hidden Talent." The article was devastating in its detail. Food writers who had interviewed Jennifer over the years suddenly realized they'd been lied to. Several published retractions and apologies. My mother became a pariah among her social circle almost overnight. I heard through mutual acquaintances, people who reached out to express their support for me, that her friends were asking pointed, uncomfortable questions. How could you not see Linda's talent right under your nose? How could you treat your own daughter that way? How could you let Jennifer take credit for Linda's work? Didn't you know? Didn't you care? She stopped going to her book club. The women there had been asking too many questions, making too many comments. She stopped going to her church group. Someone had mentioned seeing the article and asked if it was true. She stopped going to her weekly lunches with her friends. The one time she did go, she came home early. One of the women had said, loud enough for the whole table to hear, "I always thought Linda's food was too good to be Jennifer's work." Guess I was right. Jennifer's influencer career collapsed overnight. Her entire brand, her whole identity, was built on being the creative force behind Marino's restaurant. The chef, the innovator, the culinary mind. Once the truth came out, her 500,000 Instagram followers watched her empire crumble in real time. The comments were vicious. "You're a fraud. You stole your sister's work. You're a fake. Everything about you is a lie." She tried to defend herself, posted a long statement about how she did the marketing and brand development, how that was valuable too, how she never actually claimed to cook the food. But people found her old interviews, found the articles where she described creating recipes, developing flavor profiles, innovating techniques, found videos where she stood in Marino's kitchen pretending to cook, giving tips and advice about food she'd never actually made. The backlash was immediate and merciless. Major brands dropped her sponsorships. A cookbook deal she'd been negotiating fell through. A Food Network show that had been in development was canceled. Within 2 weeks, she'd lost everything. She deleted her Instagram account after the comments became too brutal, too personal, too true. Derek lost his so-called restaurant consulting business within a month. He'd been riding Jennifer's fake fame, claiming to be an expert in restaurant branding and social media marketing. Once the truth came out, no one would work with him. His clients dropped him. New prospects stopped returning calls. He'd built his entire professional identity on being married to the famous food influencer. Without that, he was just a man with an MBA and no real experience. They had to move in with Derek's parents in Worcester, a cramped 3-bedroom house where Derek's younger brother still lived in the basement. I heard Jennifer got a job at Home Goods, part-time, folding towels and ringing up customers. The same woman who used to post photos of herself drinking champagne in Santorini was now working retail for $13 an hour. My mother's friends told me, in hushed, guilty voices, that she'd aged 10 years in 10 weeks. Her hair had gone almost completely gray. She'd stopped dyeing it, stopped caring. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. She'd spent 30 years building Jennifer up, investing everything in the wrong daughter. And now she had nothing to show for it except shame and regret, and a daughter who wouldn't return her calls. But none of that was the real justice. The real justice was what I built next. 6 months after that meeting, I opened Rosa's Kitchen in the South End. It wasn't a typical restaurant. It was a charity concept. Every penny of profit went to culinary scholarships for underprivileged youth. The food was exceptional, combining my grandmother's traditional recipes with modern techniques. Critics called it revolutionary. I hired Rosa as head of family. It was a made-up title, but the salary was real. $100,000 a year to be the heart and soul of the restaurant, to welcome guests, to share her wisdom with the young chefs I was training. I bought her a beautiful apartment 3 blocks away. She cried when I handed her the keys. The opening night of Rosa's Kitchen was magical. The dining room was full of people who had believed in me. Attorney Sarah Chen was there. Chef colleagues who'd worked with me under my El Rousseau name, young culinary students I was mentoring. Rosa held court at the best table, beaming with pride. My mother showed up. I didn't invite her, but she came anyway. She looked smaller somehow, older and uncertain. She stood by the door, clutching her purse. I saw her, but I let her stand there for a full 5 minutes before I walked over. Linda, she started. Her voice cracked. I came to apologize. I was wrong. About everything. You were the diamond. You were always the diamond. I'm so sorry. I looked at her. I didn't feel angry anymore. I just felt tired. I know you're sorry, Mom, but sorry doesn't give me back 30 years. Sorry doesn't replace all the times you chose Jennifer over me. Sorry doesn't erase telling me I wasn't good enough, smart enough, worthy enough. Please, she whispered. I'm your mother. Can't we start over? I shook my head slowly. You had 30 years to see me. You chose not to. Every single day, you chose not to. I hope you find peace, Mom. I really do. But you won't find it with me. I'm done trying to earn your love. I'm done being invisible. I have a family now. A real family. People who see me. People who chose me. Rosa is more of a mother to me than you ever were. I walked away from her. I didn't look back. She left quietly, and I never saw her at any of my restaurants again. Jennifer tried to crash the opening. Security stopped her at the door. I'm her sister. She screamed loud enough for people to hear. I walked to the door calmly. No, I said, my voice clear and firm. You're not. A sister is someone who lifts you up. You spent your whole life tearing me down. Rosa is my sister. Sarah is my sister. These young chefs are my family. You? You're just someone I used to know. She left crying. I felt nothing but relief. Over the next year, my restaurant empire grew. I now had 7 restaurants across 3 cities. Each one was named after someone who believed in me. Sophia's in Boston, named for my grandmother. Rosa's Kitchen, of course. Pietro's Legacy in New York, honoring Chef Russo. Chen's East Side in San Francisco, a partnership with attorney Sarah. Each one was critically acclaimed, financially successful, and most importantly, filled with people who loved what they did. I started a culinary school for underprivileged youth. Free tuition, free supplies, real mentorship. I taught classes myself every week. That's where I found my real purpose. These young people, mostly young women, came from families that didn't believe in them, didn't support their dreams. I saw myself in every single one of them. One afternoon, I was teaching a knife skills class. A shy 16-year-old girl named Maya was struggling. After class, she came up to me, her eyes down. Chef Brown, my family says cooking isn't a real career. They want me to quit. They say I'm wasting my time. I knelt down so I was at her level. I took her hands in mine. Let me tell you what your family doesn't know. They don't know that you're going to be extraordinary. They don't know that one day you'll have everything you've ever dreamed of. And when that day comes, you'll remember who believed in you. Her eyes filled with tears. What if they're right? What if I'm not good enough? You are good enough, I said firmly. You're more than good enough. And one day you'll build your own family. Your real family. The people who see you, who value you, who celebrate you. That's what I did. That's what you'll do too. She hugged me tight. Thank you, Chef. Thank you for seeing me. I stood in that kitchen, surrounded by young women chopping vegetables, practicing techniques, laughing and learning together. The afternoon sun streamed through the windows. This was my family. This was my legacy. Not Marino's, not my mother's approval. These people, this purpose. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, already knowing what I'd see. A text from my mother. The words glowed on the screen. Linda, Jennifer, and I are in serious financial trouble. We need help. Derek lost his job. Jennifer's pregnancy is high risk and the medical bills are piling up. Please, we're family. Can we meet? I stared at the message for a long moment. I thought about the scared 30-year-old woman who had stood in Marino's kitchen just months ago, holding a fake eviction notice, asking for $15,000 to save the family business. I thought about my mother's cold dismissal. I thought about Jennifer's mocking laughter. I thought about being told to find a husband